Captain Jaren Talvik leaned back in the soft chair of the human exploratory ship, Horizon's Edge, and exhaled deeply. The long patrol near the uncharted system ZY-412 had left him exhausted. For weeks, his crew had navigated dangerous asteroid fields, scanned planets for life, and evaded unpredictable solar storms. Now, in the quiet of the ship's command deck, he finally allowed himself a moment of rest. "Captain, are you sure you don't want to rest?" Lieutenant Mara asked. She stood by the door, her tablet in hand. "We've secured the perimeter. Nothing unusual detected." Jaren gave a tired chuckle. "Mara, if I don't rest now, I might end up sleeping at the controls. Go finish your rounds. I'll be fine." With that, he reclined fully, letting the soft hum of the ship's engines lull him toward sleep. Outside the viewport, ZY-412's planet glowed with a soft, greenish light, clouds swirling around its surface like an enormous marble. It looked peaceful, almost inviting. Jaren closed his eyes and let himself drift. He did not notice the faint shimmer near the ship's hull, the subtle, almost invisible ripple of alien technology scanning the craft. Nor did he hear the soft hum of the Lorethian scout ship materializing silently beside them. The Lorethians were curious, cautious, and above all meticulous. They had been observing human ships for months, fascinated by the species that seemed so reckless yet astonishingly clever. When the scout ship's hatch opened, a group of tall, slender figures slipped inside the human vessel. Their skin shimmered like liquid silver under the ship's lights, and their limbs moved with a grace that made even the most precise human movements seem clumsy. Their eyes were large, golden, and reflective, observing every detail of the human environment. And then they saw Jaren. He lay asleep on his quarters' reclining chair, still wearing the standard rest suit but slightly disheveled from his exhaustion. The Lorethians froze, communicating silently through subtle flashes of light along their skin. In their culture, such a posture, nude, relaxed, and unguarded, was considered the ultimate sign of trust and ritual readiness. To them, Jaren was not merely resting. He had been chosen for a sacred rite of union with their leaders, a signal of favor that occurred only once every generation. The leader of the Lorethians, a tall figure named Selith, tilted its head in fascination. "The chosen one has arrived," it whispered to the others. "Prepare the ritual. He will honor us with his presence." Back in the human quarters, Jaren stirred slightly but remained asleep. He muttered under his breath, "Just 5 more minutes." Meanwhile, Mara, completing her perimeter scan, noticed the faint energy signature of the alien ship. "Captain, I'm detecting a vessel nearby," she said, her voice uncertain. "It's unusual. I can't identify its species." Jaren opened one eye slowly, ignoring the alarm. "How unusual?" he mumbled. "Another survey drone?" "Not a drone," Mara said, her voice rising. "It's alive, I think." "Moving inside our hull." Jaren sprang upright. His military training kicked in. "Lock the quarters and initiate silent alert. Do not engage unless provoked. Mara, keep calm. Let's see what they want." But before they could act further, the Lorethians had already moved inside the cabin. They surrounded Jaren silently, their reflective eyes focused on him. Their movements were smooth, precise, almost ceremonial. Jaren froze. Hello?" he said cautiously. What are you?" The leader, Selith, stepped forward and extended a long, elegant hand. In a voice that sounded like multiple harmonies layered together, it said, "You honor us with your arrival, chosen one. The rite of unity shall begin." Jaren blinked. "Rite of what?" The Lorethians exchanged soft, glowing signals along their arms. They were patient, deliberate, and utterly serious. To them, Jaren had voluntarily entered a sacred ceremony, and any misunderstanding could be considered an insult. Mara whispered almost to herself, "Captain, I don't think they understand human language." Jaren took a deep breath, trying to assess the situation. He noticed that the aliens' gestures were strangely formal, precise, and non-threatening. That was good. It meant they had a ritualistic culture rather than a military one, and that was better than being immediately attacked. He raised his hand slowly. "Okay, I don't know what you think is happening, but I am not part of any ritual. I'm just sleeping." "I think you came at the wrong time." The aliens paused, their luminous skin pulsing softly. Selith tilted its head. "Your words confuse us, chosen one." "But your honesty pleases the council. Still, the ceremony must continue." Jaren's mind raced. This was a problem, and a big one. Any wrong move could trigger a catastrophic misunderstanding. He had to think fast. Humans were adaptable. This was one of their strongest traits. He needed to learn their rules before acting. All right, Jaren said aloud, if this is some kind of ceremony, I'll cooperate. But let's make it safe, okay? No harm to me, no harm to my crew, deal? The alien studied him for several tense moments. Then in unison they bowed deeply. It was a sign of acceptance. The ceremony was about to begin. Back in the observation deck, Mara watched with a mixture of awe and panic. Captain, this is insane. What do we do? Jaren leaned back slightly, keeping his calm. Observe first. Learn second. Humans survive by understanding their environment, not by fighting blindly. Let's see what they want. We'll adapt. As the Larethians prepared, they decorated the room with glowing symbols, floating orbs, and bioluminescent flowers, an alien display of beauty and reverence. Jaren noticed that the ritual was not violent. It was ceremonial, almost like a test of intelligence, composure, and courage. He realized something important. The human's greatest strength was not muscle or weapons, it was mind and spirit. He had to show the aliens that humanity could meet their standards of honor and wisdom, without compromising his safety. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Jaren observed every gesture, every pulse of alien light, and every sound they made. He made careful notes in his mind, piecing together what the ritual might demand. Finally, Selith turned toward him. Its voice, musical and layered, filled the cabin. Chosen one, to honor us, you must prove your worth through trials of courage and wisdom. Only then will you be accepted fully into the unity of our people. Jaren nodded. Trials, huh? All right. I can do trials. Humans are good at that sort of thing. The alien's lights pulsed with approval. In that moment, Jaren felt something familiar. A sense of adventure, the thrill of the unknown. Humanity had faced countless dangers across the stars. They had always survived by thinking, adapting, and refusing to give up. And now, on this quiet ship orbiting an alien world, they were about to face another challenge. Jaren straightened, readying himself. Let's get started. The Larethians bowed again and began the first ceremonial preparations. Strange, glowing instruments hovered around him. Bioluminescent threads floated in the air. The room shimmered with alien energy. For Jaren, this was no longer about sleep or rest. It was about proving human ingenuity, courage, and spirit. The humans might have been misinterpreted by the galaxy countless times, but they had one thing no alien could ever match: the will to survive and thrive, against impossible odds. And so, as the alien lights pulsed and the strange music filled the air, Captain Jaren Talvik prepared for the most unusual mission of his life, surviving a ritual he did not understand, in a culture far beyond human imagination. Outside, the green planet of ZY412 spun slowly beneath the stars, unaware that a human was about to leave an impression that would echo across an entire alien civilization. The cave was quiet except for the soft breathing of the child and the distant echoes of battle outside. Elias kept a careful watch near the entrance, his body tense, ready for any sudden attack. But the longer he stayed, the more he realized that the real challenge would not come from the battlefield. It would come from the Ziran mother standing before him. Lysera's eyes never left him. She stood tall and proud, her body language radiating authority. Her armor shimmered faintly in the morning light, the symbol of her status as a commander of the Ziran forces. Every movement was precise, controlled, but her gaze betrayed the worry and fear she felt for her child. Elias could sense her struggle, the pull between duty and love, between anger and gratitude. You are human, she said again, her voice sharper this time. And yet you hold my child in your arms. Tell me why. Elias straightened. Because they were trapped, he said simply. They couldn't survive on their own. I saved them, that's all. Lysera's eyes narrowed. You put them in danger by taking them from the battlefield. You broke every law, every rule. Do you understand the consequences? Elias nodded. I understand, but I could not leave them there to die. I won't. Nothing can justify abandoning a child. Her lips pressed together, and she looked away for a moment. The child stirred in Elias's arms, sensing the tension between them. Lysera's expression softened for a brief second as she glanced at her young one, then hardened again. You risked everything, Your life and theirs, for what? Morality? Compassion? Yes, Elias replied without hesitation. Because saving a life is worth more than any order or strategy. You can call it morality if you like. I call it being human. Lysera's hand moved to her weapon, though she did not raise it fully. And yet, humans have brought war to my planet. Humans have killed my people. And now, you claim the right to protect what is mine? Elias held her gaze steadily. I'm not claiming anything, I'm keeping them safe, that's all. Lysera took a step closer, her eyes sharp. And what of your people? If your commanders knew you had taken a Xeran child, would they forgive you? Elias shook his head. No, they would probably call me a traitor. But this isn't about them. It's about what is right. For a moment, the two of them stood in silence. Outside, the battlefield continued its chaos. Inside the cave, time seemed to slow. The child's small hand reached out, brushing against Elias's chest. The gesture was simple yet powerful, a reminder that life was fragile and that courage sometimes came in quiet acts. Lysera's eyes softened slightly. She could see the truth in Elias's words. His actions were not calculated, not strategic. They were instinctive, pure. He had saved her child without expecting reward, without asking for recognition. But duty was not so simple. She could not ignore the rules of her people. She could not simply let this human walk away with her child. You will return them to me, she said firmly. Immediately. Elias shook his head. I can't. Not until I know they are safe. And right now, the battlefield is too dangerous. You saw that. You know it. Lysera's eyes flashed with anger. You presume to tell me what is safe. You presume to decide their fate. I'm not presuming, Elias said calmly. I'm acting, and what I am doing is keeping them alive. That is something neither of us can argue with. The tension in the cave was thick, almost suffocating. Lysera's hand hovered near her weapon, ready to act, yet reluctant to harm the human who had saved her child. Elias remained calm, his grip on the child firm but gentle. Then, a sudden sound cut through the silence. A distant explosion, followed by the roar of engines and the crackle of energy weapons. Both humans and Xerans were moving closer to the cave, drawn by the remnants of the previous night's battle. Elias's eyes flicked toward the entrance. They're coming, he said quietly. If we don't move, we'll be caught in the middle. Lysera's gaze followed his. She weighed her options quickly. Her instincts as a commander told her to attack, to reclaim her child by force. But another part of her, the part that had seen her child trapped and frightened, whispered caution. She could not risk the child's life. Not now. Finally, she made her decision. You will lead us out, she said, her voice low but firm. I will follow, and if anyone tries to harm us, her eyes met his. They will regret it. Elias nodded. Agreed. Stay close. The two of them, human and Xeran, moved carefully through the rocky terrain, the child held securely between them. Elias took the lead, guiding them along paths he had scouted the night before. The sun rose higher, illuminating the scars of war that stretched across the planet. Each step was a risk, but Elias's knowledge of the land and his calm determination kept them safe. For now. As they moved, Lysera watched him closely. She noticed the way he calculated every step, how he anticipated danger, how he protected the child without hesitation. His bravery was not loud or reckless. It was quiet, steady, unwavering. And for the first time, she began to question her assumptions about humans. Why do you care so much? She asked finally, breaking the tense silence. Elias glanced at her. Because it's right. Because someone has to care. Because if no one stands for life, then what is the point of fighting at all? Lysera considered his words. They were simple, yet powerful. In the middle of a war that had claimed countless lives, this human spoke of hope, of morality, of choice. It was something she had not seen in any of her enemies, and something she had almost forgotten existed in her own people. For hours they traveled, avoiding patrols and dangerous terrain. At times, the child clung to Elias, sometimes reaching for Lysera. He encouraged the connection, knowing that building trust was as important as keeping them alive. Lysera remained close, silent but vigilant, observing the human who had dared to act with such courage. Finally, they reached a small plateau overlooking a valley. Elias crouched, letting the child rest and drink water. The valley below was a mixture of rocky outcrops and scorched fields, but it offered cover and potential escape routes. Elias scanned the horizon, mapping a path in his mind. Lysera approached him cautiously. "You have proven your skill and your courage," she said quietly. "But I am still their mother, and I will not let anyone, human or otherwise, take them from me." Elias looked at her calmly. "I'm not trying to take them. I'm trying to keep them alive. And if we can survive the day, then maybe, just maybe, you'll see that my actions don't make me your enemy." Lysera studied him. She wanted to dismiss him, to call him reckless, to demand that he surrender the child. But the truth was undeniable. He had saved her child's life. He had acted when no one else would. And she could see it, in his eyes, in his hands, in the way he carried the child with care, that his intentions were true. A distant rumble shook the plateau. Elias's eyes narrowed. "We have to move now." They continued through the rocky landscape, the child nestled safely between them. Every step was measured, every movement cautious. And with each passing hour, the fragile tension between human and Zirin shifted ever so slightly. A bond, fragile but real, was beginning to form, not of trust yet, but of recognition. By evening, they reached a hidden valley, shielded by cliffs and thick vegetation. Elias motioned for them to rest. The child, exhausted, curled against him and fell asleep. Lysera stood nearby, her expression unreadable, her mind racing. Finally, she spoke. "You have done what no one else could," she admitted softly. "And for that, I owe you. But understand this. One day I will claim what is mine. You have not heard the last of this human." Elias nodded. "I understand. But until that day comes, your child is safe. That is all that matters." Lysera looked at the sleeping child, then at Elias. For a brief moment, the warrior in her softened, replaced by a mother's gratitude. "You are different from the humans I have fought," she said quietly. "Perhaps there is more to your species than I realized." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "There is more than war. There is compassion, bravery, and the courage to do what is right, even when it's hard." Night fell and the hidden valley grew quiet. For the first time, Elias allowed himself a moment of relief. They were safe, for now. But he knew the journey ahead would be far from easy. Trust would have to be earned. Alliances would be tested, and the war outside would not pause for them. Yet in that quiet valley, a human and a Zirin commander had taken the first step toward something impossible: understanding, cooperation, and perhaps even friendship. And Elias knew deep in his heart that saving a single life had the power to change more than he could imagine. It could change the course of the future.